Yeah, right.
Happy New Year, Kels.
New Year, new you?
Always, man. It's always new me.
Yes.
Always new me. Every day.
Constantly reinventing.
Without a doubt.
It is the 1st of January. It means the transfer window is officially open. So are Arsenal in the market for a striker?
We'll see, Kels.
We will see.
But it was 8 points. He still had to play Manchester City twice. So that was always the sort of caveat in all of that. And then it was just a 2-point gap. And really, that's all it is to the leaders at the moment. It just feels so different for Arsenal.
Yeah, but there's it feels different, but there's something that's not quite right, that don't give you the kind of, like, I don't feel infused by what I'm seeing at the moment. There's definitely something that's just not clicking right at the minute. I think teams have kind of worked it out with us. They're stopping us from playing. We're not playing fast enough. Situations, we're not doing it.
Yeah, and it seems too easy to defend against Arsenal right now. It's a kind of low block to mid block and then very narrow, so you let the ball go wide, and then wide you go 2 on Saka or 2 on Martinelli, and this is it. And they need a bit more inspiration.
The idea of it being narrow against Arsenal and Arsenal being forced to play quite narrow, but that's not helped. When you're talking about the fullbacks, and there's been a lot of talk about the fullbacks, both of them coming in, and suddenly it gets very, very congested, and so Arsenal can get forward, but there isn't any space to do anything. So interesting that the goal came when it was much more direct and that Arsenal had more space.
Well, that's the thing. I think if you do have the inverted fullback, because everyone seems to want to do it, you have to play quickly. You can't have the 2 inverted fullbacks and go side to side, because as Julian said there, the low block, you can't, by the time they get the head up and try to create a bit of space, Odegaard's not space, which is why he's not been as effective. If you're going to do that, it has to be quick, it has to be sharp. But then on the flip side of it, when you give possession away, that's where the space, and that's where the first goal for Fulham came from. You give the ball away, the flanks are free.
Well, what happened with, again, I've been looking at some of our goals that we conceded. I thought the goal against Liverpool was very easily constructed. Liverpool's goal. I thought that the first goal, like the West Ham goal, the lack of communication, and even this goal with Saka getting the ball into a situation where, yes, he's got to hold it, but then you've got Declan Rice was on the same line as him, Odegaard was gone beyond him, and like we were literally blasting beyond him before we've got control of the ball. That says to me we're thinking too far ahead, thinking too gung-ho in that situation, because then one pass out to William, 2 touches in the box from Kearney, and they score, and you think we're conceding for a team that's defending as well as we are. We're conceding really sloppy and easy goals, which is a worry.
Yeah, it's a worry for Arsenal, and the idea is, or the plan is to try and fix that come the end of the season. I was interested in the point that you were making about this being a good time to have a blip.
Yeah.
Most of the teams have had a bit of a blip. Manchester City's, you feel, is over, and they now have the title in their sights. We've hit that point of the season for them, it feels like. But for Arsenal to do that now, rather than at the end of the season, where it all kind of the wheels came off towards the end, this feels, with a 2-point gap to Liverpool at the top of the table, and even if City keep powering through, this feels achievable if Arsenal can get over this hurdle.
Yeah, but it's getting over the hurdle and the way we're playing. And this is why when people are talking about the transfer and bringing someone in at this stage, the way we're playing, I'm not sure how much you just put someone in who's going to have to come in and hit the ground running to score the goals that we're still, like I say, we're still conceding sloppy goals. If that person comes in, they're going to be under so much pressure to have to, like I say, hit the ground running. Whereas I think the break now, for us to just like I say, to regroup, to find out what's going wrong, what more do we need to do, how can we move it quicker, how can we maybe get some more energy, mental, maybe fatigue, I don't know.
But is it a good thing then, in this case, that they don't play again in the Premier League for 3 weeks now, because they'll have the FA Cup against Liverpool, which is a big game at home next weekend, and then after that they go away to Dubai for summer camp, and then only later in January they play. Is it better to have that time to work, rest, whatever, or would you rather play again very quickly?
I'd like to have that time, because I think one of the best times about when you're a footballer is when you got that summer break. You know what I mean?
Why are we calling it summer?
I'm sorry, the winter break. Sorry, the winter break. Yeah, winter break to the sun. But I used to love it because
it was when you doubled down. I was like, slip of the tongue from Jules.
I know.
Hang on.
No, what was good about it, Kels, is that it's not one of those where it's not like an end of season break where the guys are ready to let their hair down. This is a focused one where you talk and you speak, you work on what you need to do and all that sort of stuff. Then you come back and hopefully, you can get going again. And I think it's exactly what they need now. A nice break, because I think there's a lot of things that need to be done. I think even last couple of games, when you look at Declan, I think that you're starting to see a little bit of wariness. And it's not just not giving the ball away, it's just that he's doing so much. And I think that this break is perfect for him as well.
Yeah. I just want to go back to the Ivan Toney point, because it is a big story that's around at the moment. There are quite strong rumours linking with a move to Arsenal. We'll talk about it from a Brentford point of view in a second, because they might well need a striker to get them out of a sticky situation. But from Arsenal's point of view, is he a good fit? Is there a strong reason to link him with Arsenal?
Yeah, he's a good centre forward. He'll score goals, and that's what Arsenal need at the minute. Gabriel Jesus is a fantastic player, in my personal opinion. I don't know what you think, Wright. Spends way too much time outside the box.
It's too deep sometimes.
And that's frustrating, because you can see Saka looking up, you can see Martinelli looking up, and there's no centre forward in there. Now, that's one thing about Ivan Toney. Well, Arsenal saw it first and last season. He's always in and about the 6-yard box. Big physical presence, can hold the ball up, bring others into the game, and he's got a little bit of nastiness about him as well, which I think Arsenal lack. It's all nicely, pretty, quite good football, but you need someone who's got a little bit of edge, and I think Ivan Toney's got that, so I think it would be a perfect fit. But as Wright said as well, you're putting a lot of pressure on someone who's not played at an elite level football yet. I mean, he's been at Brentford, which is a great club, but it's not Arsenal. So if you're asking someone to kind of go from Brentford to Arsenal and be their main man and compel them to the Premier League titles and Champions League glory, it's a lot of pressure to put on him, and the price tag going to be
and he hasn't
as well.
been playing football, and he's not been resting, he's not been fallow in that time, but he's not been playing competitive games.
It's the thing with him is that, I think he's rise in the Premier League, coming from Brentford and scoring goals all the way to get here. Of course, the link is something that it's good for him. I don't think he's somebody that you look at and you look at the goals output. He's probably not going to be somebody that's not going to do something at Arsenal. Maybe he will, but you look at the way he plays for Brentford and the way Arsenal trying to play now, and I'm trying to think, you could see him in there, but then you can also see a Dominic Solanke in there, in the way he plays, somebody who has got some pedigree from, playing at Chelsea from a young age, playing at Liverpool, going away to Brentford, learning his trade, getting ridiculed with the lack of goals he scored, but all that time learning the link-up play. You look at him now, he's a proper modern centre forward in everything he does. He could play if his team's playing low block, he could play on the transition, he can hold the ball up, he's good in the air, and now he's taking a lot more chances. So he's another person that they're probably going to be linked and in and around, and it has to suit, especially if it's going to be January, which I don't think is going to happen. And even if, like I say, even if you put someone in Arsenal's team now the way they're playing, it wouldn't be a good thing. But it's the kind of thing that if you do get that kind of player, it has to be a player that's going to fit into how you're playing, whoever the striker is.
It also comes back to what Darren was saying about where Arsenal spend the money that they have available. And what we don't know is how much money Arsenal would have available to spend in the summer. There was a bit of talk in January, because there was a bit of talk in the summer that they might have to start to sell players just to keep up to speed on FFP. So, one, what their budget is, and then two, whether they want to spend all of it on fixing one problem rather than spread it out and maybe get cover in other areas.
Yeah, it's a great question. They spend a lot in the summer for Havertz, for Rice, obviously for Timber too. And I don't think they will be able
Sound like you said Timbuktu there. sorry. That's just so childish of me.
No, it's okay. Summer, winter, Timbuktu. We're good.
For Timber, sorry.
Yeah, but we can't, but to Darren's point, they won't be able to sign 3 players in January, even if they wanted to anyway. So I think they will look at the market in terms of opportunities. In certain positions, you might have departures, like someone like Kivio, who I think wants to play more, especially if he wants to go to the Euro, if Poland makes it. Maybe.
What about someone like Emil Smith-Rowe as well? What's
going on
with him?
Is there a market for Emil, though? I think he's a wonderful young player, but he hasn't really featured enough, I think, for us to see if it's the Emil that had that incredible first half of the season 3 years ago. Eddie Nketiah, is there a market for Nketiah? And then they will be replaced. But right now, I think they're more looking at the market in terms of opportunities than anything else.
Yes.
Yeah. As we said in the background, yes, Aston Villa are level on points with Liverpool at the top, but everybody's eyes are being drawn by Manchester City. They've had their blip. They've got that out of the way. They've come back. They've paraded all their trophies, and they just look like they have that focus in their eyes again, don't they?
They look like the start of the Star Wars film where the big Death Cruiser comes across the top. That's what they feel like.
And the shadow that sweeps over the ground.
The way they've played in the last few games, it's ominous. They're now getting ready to kick themselves into gear. We saw Pep do his thing not so long ago about what's happened with the fans. Where are you? We need, and then all of a sudden things start happening. They go to World Club Cup, and they come back, and you know what I mean. People didn't take advantage of the fact that they weren't playing, and then they've just looked like, okay, it's the start of the run. This could be the start of the run, which we all know that they're capable of doing. A lot of people say to me, I still think that people would drop points, but like when you see them in this kind of mode, I can't see where, when you look at their fixtures, where they will drop points at this stage of the season, because they just get themselves tuned in.
Do you know what it is with Man City as well? Again, we spoke about it. It doesn't matter who's at the top of the table. Everybody at the top is looking where City are. Like Liverpool are on top, and Villa are behind them, but they're going to be thinking, where's Manchester City? Where's Arsenal? Because they've earned that right. It doesn't really matter. Unless you're way out in front, and we saw Arsenal in that, obviously, unfortunately, V2 Julian, 8 points ahead. Doesn't matter how far, unless you're 10 points clear, you know they're coming. So when it's 2-3 points in it and they've got games in hand, you just think at some point they're going to get back to the top of the table.
De Bruyne and Haaland are on their way back.
And Doku.
And Doku. So you look at it and you think to yourself, everything was what you look about with City and what's happening with them. It's the positive. It's all positive now. It's all starting to happen where you can feel energy coming into their team.
What excites me the most now is when everybody is going to be back. Foden now as a 10 in the last 2 games has been amazing. So clearly this is his best position, right? When De Bruyne is back, when Haaland is back, Haaland used to play up front with Alvarez behind.
Yes.
Now we've seen Haaland behind, we've seen Alvarez up front and Foden behind. Kevin De Bruyne's best position is probably behind Haaland. So who plays as a 10 when everybody's fit?
De Bruyne.
So where do you play Foden? So you will move Foden out in a position that maybe doesn't suit him as much as...
Yeah, because then now Foden's got a problem in himself. As a player, you're thinking, well, I've proven that I can do that there at that level and higher. And the boss is probably going to bring De Bruyne back in. And we know that's going to happen. So now Phil Foden's got a problem in himself, what he's going to have to sort out, because you get frustrated, you know, especially when you're playing and I heard an interview what he done, and he was literally saying, I liked playing. I want to play real. So, you know, so you feel like that is coming for City, so we'll have to see how that pans out.
Do you know what, and you're right, because Foden, he wants to play, wants to play in that position, but you never really hear about any bad eggs at Manchester City, like people throwing their toys at the pram, why am I not getting more game time, because Pep's got this way of just playing all these players. They're gone straight away. But it's almost like they go, oh, okay, if that can happen to him, because Cancelo at that time was arguably the best fullback in the league, or certainly one of them. They never seem to have any of these kind of problems. So when Haaland does come back with De Bruyne, Pep will figure it out, and Foden might have to adjust his position slightly, but he'll find a way to get them in.
Yeah. Are we not including Aston Villa in the conversation as title challengers? Yes, but as potential title winners, are we not?
It's going to be tough for them. I still think that they've got enough, but like I think that the game at Manchester United, a Man United side that was struggling to score goals, really struggling to create. For them to play in the way they played, in the manner they played, and for Man United to come back and beat them after being 2-0 up, which a game they should have managed and finished that game off, probably score another goal against a very low confidence Man United, worries me with Villa, because as you get further down towards the end of the season, you can't give away games like that, and that's what Villa are probably going to have to learn, is that there's some games it might need to be just 1-0. Or if it's 2-0, we're going to try and manage the game better. And that's worried me about them. But, like, you can't take them out of the situation simply because years ago we saw Leicester do something similar. But at the same time, it will be very tough for Villa to keep going. And again, you have to say, just because of what Man City are capable of doing.
But also they have to go to Liverpool, to City, and to Arsenal. And I think, okay, they are home to Spurs, which may be the other team in that title race. But those 3 away trip, the away form has been really the one not as good as the home side. I think
if they could get something
home form has been incredible. I mean, up to that game against Sheffield United, which you can kind of write off as a bit of a blip for Aston Villa, because otherwise they've been streets ahead of everybody. Streets ahead of them. I mean, they've got more points at home than Manchester City have. And yes, they've played more games at home, and Manchester City didn't lose a home game in any competition
at all in 2023, but it's still a great record from Aston Villa. And for them to be challenging for a Champions League place, I think even to challenge was seen as maybe a stretch for them at the start of the season.
Maybe it's not come a bit too early for them, but it's experience, I think, as well. Like Manchester City used to be in this position, Arsenal, navigating themselves in Europe, trying to push for the top 4 and titles. I think for Aston Villa Football Club, they've not been in this position for a long time. They are going to do well in the Europa Conference League. I expect them to probably win that competition. They've got Unai Emery's a master of European competitions and pushing for the top 4 as well. It might just all catch up with them, I think. And with teams in and around them, they might fall away from a little bit. But even if they finish 5th and won the Conference League, that is still an unbelievable season.
They're probably going for 4th. If at the start of the season, they would have been going for probably Europa League.
Yeah.
But like the way they've played, I think they owe it to themselves to be trying to go for 4th because of the way that teams are dropping points against each other. They now, for me, if I'm Aston Villa, I'd probably aiming to be in the top 4. I think that would be amazing for them.
And 5th place could be Champions League. Right now it's not, but by the end of the season it could be Champions League.
It could be, and the teams dropping out of the Champions League hasn't affected that too much. I think it's still like a 77% chance. I think that 5th place is going to be a Champions League spot at the end of the season. We'll talk more about Liverpool later on because we'll look ahead to their game against Newcastle tonight. But there are only 3 points between the teams in the top 5 places, and that includes Tottenham, who, out of the blue, really, having had a real wobble, having had some really poor results, a couple of poor performances not that long ago, suddenly are within a point of Arsenal. Do we need to reassess? But everybody's sort of frowning at me. But purely on the numbers, we do have to talk about Tottenham.
Without doubt, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah,
and there's still concerns about how fragile they can be. But they might not be far off at the end of the season.
No. And plus they'll have players, they've got players coming back. I always said that with someone like Richarlison, as streaky as he is, or as he can be, if he gets into that mode of scoring, he's very, very dangerous. The thing with Tottenham at the moment, Bentancur coming back, which is brilliant, which is brilliant for them. But having 4 fullbacks at the back is a definite weakness. And, for them to get anything with those guys at the back, you've got Emerson Royale and Davis at the back. If I play against them, like we were saying in agreement, I'm putting all my force into putting those 2 under pressure continually. Maddison, it can't be far now. I think they mentioned it was going to be January.
Yeah, mid-January.
So we'll see how that goes with him. Basuma's going to be back now, obviously, soon because of the suspension.
Yeah.
You're looking at a team that, before the injuries, they looked really good. So when they come back, if they're still in and around it, which they are.
Yeah. And they've clawed that back from a 9-point gap to a 1-point gap between themselves and Arsenal, with help from Arsenal, which is 1 win in the last 5. That's a big